They said no one could ever escape Alcatraz. For 29 years it stood as America's most unforgiving prison, a fortress built on a barren rock in the middle of San Francisco Bay, surrounded by freezing, treacherous waters. It held the nation's most notorious criminals, men deemed too dangerous for any other facility. The guards had a simple motto: if you break the rules, you go to prison. If you break the prison's rules, you go to Alcatraz. The message was clear. This was the end of the line. But on a foggy night in June of 1962, 3 men decided to challenge that destiny. They planned to do the impossible. They dug through solid concrete walls, climbed to the rooftop under the noses of seasoned guards, sailed into the icy darkness on a homemade raft, and simply vanished. No bodies were ever recovered. No definitive proof of their fate was ever found. Just one question that has echoed through the decades: did they actually survive? Alcatraz wasn't just a prison. It was a psychological weapon. The constant chill, the isolating fog, the strict, relentless routine. It was all designed to break a person's spirit. Inmates could hear the sounds of life from San Francisco, the laughter from parties on yachts, the city's hum, a constant, cruel reminder of the freedom they had lost. But within this fortress of despair, an audacious plan was taking root. The mastermind was Frank Morris, a man with a genius-level IQ, known for his quiet demeanor and a history of previous prison escapes. He was the architect of the operation. His accomplices were the Anglin brothers, John and Clarence. Raised in the swamps of Florida, they were resourceful, tough, and fiercely loyal to each other. They had attempted escapes before and knew the risks, but the thought of dying in a cage was worse than dying in the pursuit of freedom. Together, this trio formed a small, clandestine team. For over a year, they meticulously studied the prison's every rhythm. They memorized the guards' patrol routes, the precise timing of the nightly head counts, and the exact moments of vulnerability in the prison's schedule. Their greatest advantage came from an unlikely source: the prison's daily music hour. From 5:30 to 6:30 every evening, inmates were allowed to play instruments. Frank Morris played his accordion, and the loud, cheerful music echoed through the cell block, providing the perfect cover for their secret work. While the rest of the prison was distracted, the trio was digging. Their tools were primitive, almost laughably simple for such a monumental task. They used sharpened spoons stolen from the mess hall, a drill bit improvised from a broken vacuum cleaner motor, and sheer brute force patience. The concrete walls around their cell vents were old and had been corroded by years of salt air. Inch by inch, night after night, they chipped away at the crumbling concrete. To hide their progress, they crafted fake vent covers out of painted cardboard. It was slow, agonizing work, carried out in near-total darkness, with the constant fear of discovery. A single misplaced sound, a single suspicious guard, could have ended everything. After months of painstaking effort, the holes were finally large enough to squeeze through. They had breached the first layer of security. Behind their cells lay a forgotten, unmonitored utility corridor, a 3-foot-wide space filled with a labyrinth of pipes and conduits. This narrow, dark passage became their secret workshop and their highway to the roof. It was here that they began constructing the most critical piece of their plan: their escape raft and life preservers. Using over 50 standard-issue prison raincoats, some stolen, some bartered from other inmates, they began to assemble their vessel. They painstakingly stitched the rubberized fabric together and sealed the seams with glue they had secretly accumulated over months. The process was a testament to their ingenuity. They even had to vulcanize the rubber seams to make them waterproof, using heat from the nearby steam pipes that ran through the corridor. It was a brilliant, high-risk feat of engineering performed in secret, deep within the bowels of America's most secure prison. As their preparations neared completion, they needed one final crucial element to buy them time. They needed a way to fool the guards during the nightly bed checks. Using a homemade mixture of soap, toothpaste, and toilet paper, they sculpted dummy heads. They made them shockingly realistic, painting them with flesh-toned colors from stolen art supplies, and even adding real human hair collected from the prison barbershop floor. Placed on their pillows in the dim light of the cells, these decoys were their silent accomplices, designed to give them a precious head start of several hours. Everything was now in place. All they needed was the right moment. On the night of June 11, 1962, a thick fog rolled in from the Pacific, blanketing the bay. It was the cover they had been waiting for. After the final head count at 9:30 p.m., the lights went out. This was it. One by one, they slipped through the holes in their cells, leaving their dummy heads tucked into their beds. They crawled into the utility corridor, gathered their gear, and began the perilous climb. They scaled the network of pipes, ascending 30 feet up through the darkness to the top of the cell block. From there, they forced open a rooftop ventilator and emerged into the cold, foggy night air. For the first time in years, they were outside the prison walls, with only the open sky above them. But freedom was still a mile and a half of treacherous water away. They scurried across the rooftop, avoiding the searchlights, and slid down a large kitchen vent pipe to the ground near the water's edge. Here, hidden from the watchtowers, they inflated their makeshift raft using a small accordion-like instrument called a concertina they had modified to act as a bellows. At approximately 10 p.m., Frank Morris and the Anglin brothers pushed their fragile raft into the frigid, turbulent waters of San Francisco Bay and paddled off into the fog. They disappeared into the dark, leaving behind a legacy of mystery. The next morning, the routine head count sounded the alarm. When the three men failed to respond, a guard reached through the bars to shake one of them awake. The head rolled off the pillow and onto the floor. Pandemonium erupted. The siren blared across the island, signaling an escape. Alcatraz was immediately placed on lockdown, and one of the largest manhunts in FBI history was launched. Boats and helicopters scoured the bay and surrounding coastlines. For 10 days, the search was relentless. They found a paddle floating near Angel Island. Later, a wallet wrapped in plastic containing names and photos of the Anglin brothers' family and friends was discovered. A few shredded remnants of a homemade life vest washed ashore on Cronkite Beach. But of the men themselves, there was no sign. The official conclusion from the FBI was that the three men had drowned. They argued that the currents were too strong and the water too cold for anyone to survive, especially on such a flimsy raft. The bay that night was a death trap, they insisted. The case was officially closed in 1979, and the fugitives were declared deceased. But the story didn't end there. Doubts lingered. The Anglin family, for instance, always maintained that the brothers had survived. They claimed to have received postcards and messages from them over the years. They even pointed to a mysterious photograph from the 1970s, purportedly showing John and Clarence Anglin alive and well on a farm in Brazil. Forensic experts who have examined the photo have said it's highly likely to be them. Then, in 2013, the mystery deepened. A letter, allegedly written by John Anglin, was sent to the San Francisco Police Department. It began, "My name is John Anglin. I escaped from Alcatraz in June 1962 with my brother Clarence and Frank Morris. I am 83 years old and in bad shape. I have cancer. Yes, we all made it that night, but barely." The writer claimed that Frank Morris had died in 2008 and his brother Clarence in 2011. He offered to turn himself in for a year of prison time in exchange for medical treatment. The FBI analyzed the letter for fingerprints and DNA, and the handwriting was compared to John Anglin's. The results were inconclusive. Was it a cruel hoax, or the final confession of a man who had pulled off the greatest escape in American history? The FBI reopened the case, and to this day, the U.S. Marshals Service still has active arrest warrants for all three men. So, what is the truth? Did they meet their end in the cold, dark waters of the bay, their desperate bid for freedom cut short by nature's unforgiving power? Or did they, against all odds, reach the shore, change their identities, and melt back into society, living out their lives as free men? Perhaps they became fishermen in Brazil, or lived quiet lives in some forgotten corner of America. We may never know for certain. Their story remains a tantalizing blend of fact and folklore, a testament to the unquenchable desire for freedom. They risked everything for a chance to live, and in doing so, they achieved a different kind of immortality. They became a legend. And Alcatraz, the island fortress that claimed to be inescapable, was forever defined by the three men who simply vanished. Thank you so much for watching this journey into one of history's greatest mysteries. What do you think happened to them? Did they survive that impossible escape? Let me know your theories in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, please give this video a like, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell for more true stories that continue to puzzle us. Thanks again, and see you next time.